Our next show begins in 5 minutes. This is intermission time, refreshment time. Visit our snack stand for hot dogs and other sandwiches, for ice-cold Coca-Cola, for a variety of ice cream, candy bars, cigarettes. We are here to serve you. You still have 4 minutes before the next show. Why not take a break, have a stretch, and visit our modern refreshment center? You'll find clean, conveniently located restrooms for your comfort. Better hurry. Next show starts in 3 minutes. But there's still plenty of time to go to the handy snack stand for a sizzling hot dog and a refreshing Coke, or for any of the many tempting items available there. Two minutes until the next show starts. The refreshment center has plenty of freshly popped hot buttered popcorn and lots of other good things waiting for you. Drop over now.
For your convenience, our refreshment center will remain open when the next show begins in just a minute. You'll find a wide selection of tasty snacks and beverages available for your pleasure. Sizzling, steaming, griddle-fresh hot dogs in fluffy buns with your choice of seasoning. A large selection of appetizing sandwiches. Delicious, refreshing, ice-cold Coca-Cola. A kettle full of hot buttered popcorn, light and crisp, golden good to the taste. Fresh frozen ice cream and lots of other tasty items. Also, you'll find we carry your favorite brand of cigarettes. Make yourself at home. Enjoy the service of our refreshment center whenever you come to see us. Now, on with the show.
Well, hello there, Martin. glad you're here, and welcome to the Monster Kid Cory Halloween haunt. Oh, hey, Kaiser's here. All right, excellent. Um, so welcome to the Halloween haunt, which isn't really. I don't have anything really planned. It's not like some big glorious live stream party or anything like that. It's just October, almost Halloween here, so getting together, shooting the breeze, talking about horror and whatever. And oh, hi, Queen. Welcome there. And the only thing I really have planned for tonight is that I have a few toys I bought over the last couple of days that I have been restraining myself to do a live stream unboxing of, rather than make an actual video out of it. Just something to do. And in the meantime, oh, and I changed up my thing. You can't see all of it because that guy's in the way, but ooh, there we go. Nice. All right, put that back up now. Um, so, Martin asked, what are my thoughts on James Rolfe's Cinemassacre and his year-round Monster Madness reviews? I like Cinemassacre well enough. It's fine. It's great. I don't watch any irregularity, just because I tend to only really watch movie reviews if I'm interested in the subject matter. There's a few that, like, for a while, like Red Letter Media, where I would just watch any of the reviews because I thought they were themselves so entertaining. But for the most part, I only really catch Cinemassacre when he's reviewing stuff that I'm interested in, like his whole series on Kong movies and stuff like that. But overall, he's fine. He's great. Hooray! Good for him. So that is my thought on him. um, and I felt bad for him when he got dragged for saying he just wasn't interested in the 2016 Ghostbusters. And I thought the way that everybody, including that POS Patton Oswalt, talked about him was absolutely shameful. He has every right not to watch a movie if he doesn't feel like it. And he was right to not want to watch that movie anyways. So, anywho, that's my thoughts on the Angry Video Game Nerd. Halloween is indeed awesome. No Monster Mash in the background. No, I do have Count Chocula and Frankenberry right there. And I have the cereal upstairs. Actually, not the Monster Mash cereal. This year in Canada, it's always a crapshoot what they actually release in Canada. This year they did all three. So there was Count Chocula, Frankenberry, and Boo Berry. And in fact, I'm still working my way through the boxes of them. So, but we didn't get Monster Mash this year. We did get it 2 years ago. Yeah, I think about 2 years ago we got it. But we only got the version that had the three. So Frankenberry. No, was it 3 or was it 2? Might have just been Frankenberry and Count Chocula actually, because like we don't actually get like Yummy Mummy or Fruit Brute up here, so it didn't. The Monster Mash cereal didn't include those guys. um, so, um, but yeah, in fact, I have a friend who wanted me to send him the box of our version of Monster Mash. I still have the boxes. I just haven't got around to ever actually sending him the boxes because I am lazy. So yeah, sorry, Nate. I still have the boxes for you. But yeah, so still working my way through those cereals. Although I was watching, it was some video. It might have been Secret Galaxy did a history of the monster cereals. And then when he like mentioned that they make them out of corn now instead of out of oats, and suddenly like both my wife and I were just like, "What? That's why they taste different and taste worse than they used to when we were kids." But still love them in principle because they are the monster cereals. Halloween Red Letter Me is hilarious. Yeah, I had to stop watching them for a little bit because I only find reviewers really helpful if they have the same taste in movies that I do. If somebody doesn't like horror movies, then they're not going to be useful to me to understand if it's a good horror movie or not. So there was a little stretch there where Red Letter Media like clearly had different tastes than I do, and it was like because there was like a string of movies that I liked that they did not like, and it was just like, all right. Like I think Man of Steel was one of them, Lone Ranger was another one. That was just like, all right, whatever. So I had to stop watching them for a little while, but I've tuned back in for a few of their more recent reviews over the last couple of months. Kaiser, yeah, I mean, who didn't like Ghostbusters 2016, right? OMG, how could you not like a movie that took Ghostbusters and used it to make fun of Ghostbusters fans? I remember Frankenberry and Count Chocula. Yeah, Frankenberry and Count's right there too. There he is, right there. So yeah, Jada Toys has released. They released the Frankenberry and Count Chocula last year, the figures, and they've just released the Boo Berry. And do I bother with it now? And oh, there he is. I got the Boo Berry figure finally, so I'm going to be unboxing that once we run out of a few things to talk about here. I have not tried the Carmella Creeper, and we don't get that up here in Canada. And I mean, I understand them wanting a female monster because that's all hip and the things, and I understand them going with the Bride of Frankenstein kind of theme because that's the female monster. But how do they keep missing Creech Crunch? Like, come on. Where's the poor Creech from the Black Lagoon has no cereal? Like, come on. But yeah, we don't get that up here in Canada. In fact, there was a good stretch where we didn't get the monster cereals at all. Like, they just took them all like entirely out of Canada and didn't release them forever. And in 2006, I went to Disneyland and met up with a bunch of friends of mine in the United States who came from their various parts of the country, and we all converged on Disneyland. And my same friend who I've been meaning to send those boxes to, he actually brought me some boxes of monster cereal that he had saved for a few months, and so my checked luggage was just basically boxes of cereal, which was fun. Pitch Meeting. I don't know if I've seen Pitch Meeting. Super Easy Billy. Oh yeah, no, that guy. Yeah. I've watched his stuff. Yeah, is like is making fun of the movies by like, how on earth would you pitch this thing? Yeah, I've seen that guy's stuff. He's pretty funny. I did not see Rob Zombie's version of the Munsters because I have heard that it is terrible, and I'm not really a huge Munsters fan to begin with. I've mentioned this a few times. I have watched like the entire Munster series, so I've given it a fair shake. And it is charming enough in its own right, but I'm not like a fan of the Munsters. I'm a fan of the Addams Family. I'm more of an Addams Family guy. So it's sort of 2 points against seeing the Munsters. Is that I've heard it's terrible. I'm not like that big of a fan of the Munsters to begin with. Which is not to say that I don't think the people involved had their hearts in the right place. I actually felt bad for the actor who played Grandpa, because he's in a couple of the Universal Monster fan groups on Facebook, and he's fairly involved with it. Like, he's a monster fan. He likes monsters. He collects monsters. He shows off his collections now and then. He speaks up now and then on different topics. But everyone just ripped apart the Monsters movie, and I was just like, oh, I feel so bad for the guy. So, I will give credit to the people involved for loving the subject and caring about it and wanting to do a good job. It just didn't seem like the things all kind of meshed together. I don't know. Man, I haven't. Maybe it's great. I don't know. I haven't actually seen it myself, but I haven't heard good things about it. Did I watch Wednesday? Yes, I did. There's been enough different versions of Addams Family that, it's fair enough if somebody wants to try something different. So I'm not offended if it's different from the exact things that I like. So Wednesday as a teenage girl supernatural murder mystery thing was fine. The performances were good. The dance scene, of course, was great. But it was a little strange because it was clearly written by people who weren't really that weird themselves. Who didn't quite get the full Addams Family thing, because like there's a couple episodes there that revolve around like this murder mystery plot of whether Gomez killed somebody, and it's like, it's Gomez Addams. I would assume he's killed people. Like, how is that an issue? Like, I'd be disappointed if he hasn't killed anybody. So that was a bit weird. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, I thought it was great, and I mean, Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia was great. Luis Guzman as Gomez was great. He actually looks like Gomez from the comic, which is great. And you know, it's different from the '90s movies, which is fine. Those are brilliant in their own right, and the '60s TV show is brilliant in its own right. Um, yeah, I would probably watch a second season of Wednesday. Um, like, it was entertaining enough that might as well, right? Like, whatever. Um, Martin has the Target exclusive retro packaging of all five. We don't have Targets in Canada. They tried Targets in Canada for a while, and that didn't work. We said nay to the Targets. So, as a consequence, actually, the reason why we said nay to the Targets is because we didn't get the same stuff as the American Targets. So you would see like, oh, look at this Target exclusive toy, and it wouldn't be at our Targets. Um, I mean, even if we had Target, whether or not they would have the retro packaging of all five of the monster cereals, probably not even. So, whatever. Um, However, you know, Great Falls, Montana is only about a 5-hour drive from me, so maybe I'll go. I've been actually tempted at times to just like, let's make a weekend of it and go down to Great Falls, Montana and go to the Sip and Dip Tiki Bar and go to the Target. But haven't actually done that because I've been very, very busy over the summer and trying to make money, trying to make ends meet, doing tours and things like that. Creature from the Black Lagoon appeared in an episode of the Munsters. Yes, he did. Uncle Gil. At one pilot, they did the Munster. Something about the street name was fantastic. Oh yes, 1313 Mockingbird Lane. The 4-episode remake of the Munsters was fantastic. I actually really liked 1313 Mockingbird Lane. I wish that series had taken off. So that had Jerry O'Connell, sorry, as Herman Munster, and it had Eddie Izzard as Grandpa, but he's like a Bram Stoker's Dracula version of Grandpa. So yeah, it was like I love 1313 Mockingbird Lane was so good. I'm so sad that it didn't take off. I have not seen the Wednesday spin-off series. Nosferatu also appeared in the Mushroom headlines. Sure, cool. Happy Halloween, Doug. Welcome, welcome. I'm not planning to see Five Nights at Freddy's because I have not played the game. I don't have the context, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So I understand. I know what the game's about, but I haven't actually played it myself, and because I'm just not interested. And as a consequence, I'm not interested in the movie either. But given how popular it is, I'm actually not surprised that the movie did as well as it has been doing, because it's a big game. Like I even how I used to keep apprised of what was in with the kids these days when I was still working as an educator at a museum. So my career before COVID, I worked in museums and I worked as an educator. And so, you know, every day for months and months, I was teaching school kids about geology and art and history and stuff like that. And of course, you find out because the kids talk about things and they ask you if you're into things. And so you have to keep apprised of what's cool with the kids in order to be able to talk with them and relate to them. So that's how I found out about Five Nights at Freddy's, and like all the kids were into this game. So that's how I had to find out what it was. I do not know who produced 1313 Mockingbird Lane. The kiddo saw Freddy's the other day, being a fan of the game, said they were awesome. I'm between cataract surgery, so I'm not hitting the theaters anytime soon. Oh, sorry to hear that, Doug. I hope that your surgeries go well. The one has gone well, your next one will go well, and that you recover quickly. He is probably not going to see it because he is not too familiar with FNAF, and because it's negative reviews, but I still enjoyed it nevertheless. Yeah, well, I don't have anything against it. I just never played it, so. I don't, I might have mentioned this before already in another video. I'm not like a gamer. I mentioned this in my King Kong video. The Skull Island Rise of Kong video. I don't like play video games for the sake of playing video games. I play video games of subject matter that I'm interested in. So right now, my big things that I'm playing are Red Dead Online. More so right now because it's Halloween, so I have all the Halloween stuff in there. But it's a old west shoot 'em up game. And then Star Trek Online I've been playing a lot lately because I've just been craving actual Star Trek, which is not any of the current Star Trek shows. And so I've just been playing a lot of Star Trek Online because it's the closest thing to it, and they do a great job of like pulling together all of these deep cuts from Star Trek history and making storylines out of them, which then makes me go back to watch the episodes so I can refamiliarize myself with like who they were, who those people were, and that sort of thing. So that's been a lot of fun playing that. BioShock Infinite, I have an unhealthy obsession with that game because just the beautiful Victorian science fiction type setting is great. That's what appeals to me about that. Transformers Devastation, I've been playing that through again because I like Transformers. But otherwise, it's like, oh, this is the hip in game. Well, I don't like. Okay, why do I want to play it though? It needs to be a subject matter I'm interested in for me to play the game. And Five Nights at Freddy's not really a thing, and it's also like jump scares. So it's like, meh. I'll pass on that. Bryan Singer did that, and the X-Men movies. Yes, he did. Okay, interesting. Cool. Wow. Should we do some toy unboxings while we're here? Well, I already showed off the Boo Berry, so I might as well open him up. So, cute little box with it's got the mask right there, and there is Boo right there. So let's and yeah, Star Trek episodes is written by Robert Bloch. I didn't know that. All right, so we've got the cereal, and I gather he glows in the dark, and it feels it. I feel the texture on the... Now, my light is blocking it out. Too much. There we go. So there is the... Let's change that up a bit. There's a little box of cereal that he comes with, so which glows in the dark. You can feel the glow-in-the-dark texture on it. It's got the mask design on the back there, the old vintage boxes, which I think is great that they come with the little boxes. That's hilarious. Little stand for him to float on. And come on. And Boo himself. Yes. Which yeah, there we go. Ha. Me. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard the audio dramas. The Monster Cereal audio dramas. So back in the day, one of the things that they released as a premium with the cereal were these little flexible vinyl records that had different stories. So one of them was the monsters going to the disco, one of them was the monsters going to outer space, and one of them was the monsters going to Hollywood. And so Count Chocula, of course, sounds like a Bela Lugosi impression. Frankenberry sounds like a Boris Karloff impression, and Boo Berry sounds like a Peter Lorre impression, which I think is great. And it's like once you hear that voice with him, it's like yes, that works perfectly for Boo Berry as a Peter Lorre impression. But there he is. It's not really like there's not much going on here. He's got two arms that are articulated and have little swivelly hands on there, and he's got a swivelly head, and that's his articulation. And he comes with a stand because he floats. So that is Boo Berry, which is awesome. And I'm glad they finally completed the 3. I was wondering for a while if they would actually bother, like, why they didn't come out with a Boo Berry figure to begin with, or why they didn't bother making him like a Build-A-Figure. Like you get his body with Frankenberry and his head with Count Chocula or something like that. So I'm glad they finally did come out with the figure here, who supposedly glows in the dark, but it's not dark in here, so we're not going to find out. So I will put him with his rightful buddies here. Would have been nice if they had actually given stands to the other two monsters too. I had to actually use old G.I. Joe figure stands because I have. In the 90s, when they made the G.I. Joe figures that were all of these like crazy neon colors, I had left over a figure stand that was like hot pink and a figure stand that was brown, which is like perfect for these guys. except that the pegs on the G.I. Joe figure stands are a little bit too big for the holes in their feet. So I've stretched out the holes on Frankenberry and Count Chocula there. But there we go. Now we have all three. Hooray! Finally. And I don't even know if I would bother with getting Yummy Mummy or Fruit Brute. Part of me would say yes, because complete set, but the other part of me is like, I have no emotional attachment to those cereals. So, I don't know. Where are we at here? Robert Block wrote Cat's Paw. Okay. Yeah, actually, Cat's Paw is what the current Halloween event mission thing in Star Trek Online is based on. So my Andorian Starfleet captain from the 23rd century is running around a Gothic castle fighting the Davidians, actually, because it's the closest thing they have in Star Trek to ghosts, I guess. I've only played the first FNAF game a bit, so only watched them. Okay. Little Blueberry. Doug says, as for toys, I'm in a Funko phase. I've picked up Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman. Nosferatu released January 1st. I'm on a pre-order hunting up Frankenstein, the Gillman. You're not picking a bad time to get into the Funko Pops because they are all going on sale. So I've noticed that. I've actually, with my store, I've actually resisted selling Pops because I'm not a big fan of them myself. And I know that, I knew that like the moment I would start selling them is the moment that the market would burst on those. And it seems like it is. Like I see them on sale everywhere. And I've heard about Funko just like basically taking them from the factory to the garbage dump. So if you want to get into Funkos, now's the time to do it. The bubble's bursting, so they're going to be really cheap. Has anyone made figures of Quisp and Quake? Not that I know of. I know that Jada, so the Monster cereal figures are made by Jada, and I know that they've also made a Chester Cheetah, so the Cheetos mascot, and I think a Toucan Sam or a Tony the Tiger. But they're making like other characters. So maybe they will make Quisp and Quake at some point. I'm not probably going to get any other ones. The only one I might get otherwise, if they make it, is Captain Crunch. Because Captain Crunch was also made by the guy who did Bullwinkle and Rocky, Jay Ward. And so it's like, I love Rocky and Bullwinkle. It's like it used to be my all-time favorite TV show, but then it took a backseat to Twilight Zone, so it's my second favorite TV show. But I still love Rocky and Bullwinkle. It's like the best show. So I would love to see, a Captain Crunch just to fit in that that whole thing. But actually, if Jada wanted to make Rocky and Bullwinkle figures, I would probably get those too. Favorite Peter Lorre film is The Raven. Sure. My favorite movie that Peter Lorre is in would probably be Comedy of Terror. Comedy of Terrors, right? Which is my favorite of the entire like broader American International Edgar Allan Poe, Vincent Price sort of series, which I talked about in the video about that. That's my favorite movie that Peter Lorre is in, followed very closely by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. My favorite movie starring Peter Lorre, I guess, would be M, which is, a brilliant movie. So, and he does an amazing performance in it. Quisp was an alien with a propeller on his head. Yep. So make Quisp. I have not seen Quisp around these parts. Remember they used to make cereals that were based on movies and characters like Robin Hood and Batman got their own cereals? Remember C-3POs? Yeah, that was my movie tie-in cereal when I was a kid, and I can still taste them. Like if I see the box, if I see a picture of it, or I think about it, like I can remember like what that tastes like. Yeah, C-3POs is where it's at. In fact, I'm surprised they haven't like made some variant C-3PO action figure in a C-3PO's box or something like that, since that seems to be the big rage. Martin says, I heard you say before Night of the Living Dead ruined horror films. I'd like to know why you think that is. Okay. He says, Toucan Sam, never watch Underdog. M's a classic. Okay. I'll answer Kaiser's thing first. I've seen a few clips of Underdog. The most I know of Underdog is actually from him being at the Bullwinkle's Pizza place. I don't know if they had these where you lived, Kaiser, but where I lived, they had, it's like a Chuck E. Cheese sort of thing, based on Bullwinkle's. So there was like animatronic Bullwinkle and Rocky and Dudley Do-Right and Underdog, which I thought was really weird because Underdog was not in the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoon. And in fact, I had no idea who Underdog was for a long time, other than this character at this pizza place. But I have since seen episodes of Underdog, and it is, yes, very much in the vein of Rocky and Bullwinkle, so it's all fine. All right. So, Night of the Living Dead ruined horror movies. Why do I think that is? Okay. So, I touched on this, I think, in my Universal Monsters video, and probably a couple other videos since then as well. But basically, prior to the late 1960s, the dominant tradition in horror is like Gothic horror, right? Which is the horror of God exists, right? So I said, sort of for the purposes of this discussion, and of course it's always nuanced, but I'm trying to make low resolution here. There's sort of two types of horror, right? So there's the horror that God does not exist, and the horror that God does exist. The horror that God does exist is Gothic horror. So that is where each individual soul is the battleground between heaven and hell, between God and the devil. And the worst thing that can happen to someone is the damnation of their soul, and the loftiest thing that can happen to them is the salvation of their soul. Even if they lose their life, the salvation of their soul is what's important. And so that is the Universal monsters, that is the Poe movies, the old Hammer movies, all sorts of stuff. That's that classic horror thing, is that the horror that God does exist, the horror that the universe is frightfully full of meaning, and that the human soul is the battleground between heaven and hell. And that was all going along tickety-boo fine until the late 1960s, when society's changing. You have all of these radical shifts in society. So you think of the civil rights movement, you think of Woodstock and the hippies and the anti-war movement and Stonewall and the LGBTQ rights movement and the American Indian movement and Vatican II and all that sort of stuff going on in the late 60s, like these massive social upheavals. And that creeps into movies with the horror that God does not exist. So instead of the soul being the battleground between heaven and hell, now you're dealing with the horror that the universe has no meaning and nothing matters, and that human beings are just meat in a vast, indifferent cosmos. And in 1968, I picked that as sort of the high water, as sort of the starting point. Because in 1968, you get these two movies come out that completely embody that movement. Right, and 68. That's like right in the whole like hippies and Woodstock and all that sort of stuff. And those two movies are 2001: A Space Odyssey and Night of the Living Dead. Right, so 2001: A Space Odyssey is like this de-romanticized version of space. It's this de-romanticized version of life. Right, it's this idea, this whole theme, and I mean I could do a whole video about why I think 2001 sucks, but you get this story about, evolution is tied to the struggle for survival, and it begins with this just irritatingly long segment on Earth, but Earth is like this barren desert with just monkeys doing monkey things. Like, it's so dead and drab and lifeless. And then you go to the future, 2001, all the space stuff, and it's also drab and lifeless and dead, and the only thing approaching a character in the whole movie is Hal. And then you go to Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite. And so Dave is getting the stellar consciousness, and all he sees are just infinite dead worlds and split screen effects for a half hour. So it's just like this dead, lifeless, nihilistic struggle for survival, this evolutionary growth of consciousness, but finding out that nothing is worth knowing. Right, and that's 2001. And then Night of the Living Dead is literally a movie about chaos swallowing the world. Right. So the dead have risen. There's no reason. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just a thing that happens. And then you have these characters that are stuck together in this situation, trying to survive, and they all die. And in fact, the virtuous people die first, right? So the whole the classical horror, you have this thing like, virtuous action leads to the salvation of souls. In Night of the Living Dead, virtuous action leads to your death, even more surely than cowardly actions. And the last surviving person, he actually has to take the most cowardly option. At the beginning of the movie, he was like, we're not doing that because that's stupid. At the end, he has to recourse to it, and then he doesn't even escape anyways. Spoilers. So, like, Night of the Living Dead is, like, the perfect movie for, like, how do you communicate this nihilistic view of the world where nothing matters and everything will be swallowed up in chaos. And that is and I mean, Night of the Living Dead is a good movie, right? And, like, I do watch it, in much the same way that I like Lovecraft. Like, here in, let me just take the sideboard, there's my Cthulhu, right there. But I don't share Lovecraft's worldview because I'm a religious person. But Lovecraft is very effective at communicating this idea of nihilistic horror, the horror that God does not exist. And Night of the Living Dead is also very effective in that. So is Matango by Toho. So that is... so I like those movies. They're very well done movies. They communicate their themes very well. I just don't ultimately share the worldview. But they're still good movies. But yeah, if you want to make a movie about chaos swallowing up the universe, that's Night of the Living Dead. And it's a radical departure from classical horror, right? What you're seeing in Dracula or Frankenstein or the Wolfman or even Mask of Red Death or Comedy of Terrors or whatever is radically different from what's going on in Night of the Living Dead. And that's why I say Night of the Living Dead kind of ruined horror. Because Night of the Living Dead is then what spawns the whole like slasher horrors and things like that. 2001 directly spawned like this whole nihilistic phase of these really long, really boring science fiction movies. But luckily, science fiction was saved by Star Wars. Because Star Wars deliberately echoing like the old Buck Rogers serials and stuff from the 60s from the 30s and 40s and 50s. So it's going it echoing what's before 2001, and it's this lively, vibrant movie with these characters, this really engaging, sort of timeless, mythic sort of story. So, and then it's because of Star Wars that you get all like the great movies from the 80s, right? So like E.T. and Back to the Future and all those movies. Horror has yet to recover from this. Horror is just spiraling downwards into ever more and more nihilism, right? You take 2001 and you mix it with Night of the Living Dead, and the offspring you get is Alien, right? Slasher horrors, you get all those, and I mean we've hit the nadir with like Saw and Human Centipede, where it's just watching people get brutalized and tortured and killed, and have horrific things done to them just for the sake of it, just for seeing horrible things happening to people. So that's why I say Night of the Living Dead has ruined horror. And honestly, you couldn't do classical horror anymore. Like, people aren't scared by it. Not because they couldn't be, but because people's philosophical worldviews have changed. In 1930, the damnation of your soul was a credible threat, right? And the idea of transcendent sacrifice to save someone's soul was like a meaningful idea. People don't believe that anymore. People don't believe in the soul. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in heaven and hell. And without those things, you can't make that horror effective. So now it's just endless gore and dismemberment. And I guess they've been making a lot of the horror of being a woman, like with that Summer, whatever that Norwegian one was, that Summer whatever movie, and the movie that has the same title as The Invisible Man. So yeah. Anyways, that's my speech on how Night of the Living Dead ruined horror. Maybe I'll make an actual video, like a full video out of it someday. Who knows? They should have made the caveman scene longer. 2001. No, they should not have made the caveman scene longer. You must have really enjoyed Confused Matthew's review for 2001. Yes, I did enjoy Confused Matthew's review, and in fact, Confused Matthew's review of 2001 inspired me to edit 2001. So sitting on a laptop that no longer functions is actually my edit of 2001, where I cut it down to about an hour and a little bit shy of hour and a half. And I got And I knew what I was doing, right? So I'm not like completely up to lunch. I condensed the Dawn of Man sequence to 10 minutes, and I made sure that Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite was also 10 minutes, because I know that they are the same length because reasons, because symbolism. So I made sure they were both 10 minutes long, and that was totally fine. 2001 might have been an okay movie if someone told Stanley Kubrick, no, you can't do that. We have to make it shorter. so, but yeah. So yes, I did enjoy Confused Matthew, and he did inspire me to do an edit. And in fact, I made an alternate ending as well, where Dave actually is a ham sandwich. Love Night of the Living Dead. Last time I watched it, I was struck by the decision to make the hero lead a black man. Yep. Taking Charge getting done in 68. This was radical. Yeah, absolutely was. And I absolutely give it credit for that. To make the most competent and closest thing to a hero in the movie a black man in 68 was it definitely a radical choice. It's just too bad that it didn't matter, did it? Because in the end, the way of all flesh, right? What did I think of George Pal and his science fiction films like War of the Worlds, When Worlds Collide, Conquest of Space? They all have quasi-religious themes. Yeah. More so for War of the Worlds, more so than its author did. That's for sure. Good movies. I mean, yeah. Conquest of Space, I haven't watched very closely. Because that is the one that's on the double disc with I Married a Monster from Outer Space, if I remember correctly, if I'm thinking it's the right movie. If I'm thinking it's the same movie. Yeah, it's like a space procedural. Like, this is how we would go into space. War of the Worlds. I mean, War of the Worlds is War of the Worlds, right? it's a classic. I mean, I still, being an aficionado of Victorian science fiction, I would have preferred if it was set at the turn of the century. But, yeah, still a good one. I don't have any really particularly deep thoughts about those movies, so sorry. Star Wars brought fun and adventure back to science fiction films. Yep. Lovecraft was a great writer, but I didn't like him as a person. Yeah. Part of what makes Lovecraft so effective is that he was such a misanthrope. Like, he was nice to people he knew personally, right? He had this amazing correspondence with so many different people. But when he stepped back and looked at humanity as a whole, he was disgusted by humanity. He was disgusted by sex. He was disgusted by other races. He was just very, like, just grossed out by humankind. And then he was really effective at communicating that disgust through his use of language, right? His stringing together adjectives that don't belong together, but convey this idea of something that shouldn't exist. He was really good at that. And that's what makes his work so compelling. But yeah, it's definitely an insight into a mind that was not entirely healthy. Definitely. Doug says, favorite Peter Lorre of all time's Casablanca. Yeah, hard to beat that one. Mostly because it's the best movie ever, yeah. But I love the campy adventure of Mr. Moto. Haven't seen M to my shame. You should see M. It is a really, really interesting study of a child killer, a child serial killer. They don't really establish in the movie if it's a child abuser as well, or if he's just a child killer. But yeah, M is an amazing movie. It is it's by Fritz Lang, and it's definite. I mean, Fritz Lang did so many good movies that it's hard to like which is his best movie. But I think M, a case could be made for M, certainly. And yeah, Casablanca. I mean, God, how do they make a movie as good as Casablanca? Especially when they weren't even trying. Right? If you read about like the history of Casablanca, it was just like, oh, this is number 42 in this year's slot of movies that we have to make. And it ended up being so good. Casablanca is so good, and it's like they can't make anything like as good as Casablanca. Like, I'm surprised they haven't tried to fix it by making a live action remake in the Pandaverse. But yeah, like Casablanca is so good. It's hard to like wrap your mind around how good a movie it is. I did not see the remake of The Exorcist. Why is that? Invisible Stalker. Yeah, The Invisible Stalker, yeah. Put my 2001 edit on YouTube. Yeah, if I can recover it off that laptop, maybe I should. One of my thoughts on The Shining? I don't have thoughts on The Shining. I went through my phase where, I was a teenager and I loved Stanley Kubrick. Right? White boy teenager loves Stanley Kubrick, go figure. Also liked Quentin Tarantino. But now I still enjoy Doctor Strangelove. I still think Doctor Strangelove is a hilarious movie. Um, but other Stanley Kubrick movies, it's just like, dude, that's a bit much. Like, just he is so long and so indulgent, and like 2001 really turned me off. Um, Clockwork Orange now, um, as a 45-year-old man, as opposed to a 25-year-old man, I find Clockwork Orange is just a bit much. um, so The Shining, I don't. I suppose I should watch it. I go with some frequency to Glacier National Park, which is the road that is going up to the Overlook Hotel, right at the beginning of the movie. That's in Glacier National Park. So I have driven that road multiple times. And sometimes it's like, usually I'm playing like, some beautiful soaring orchestral music in the car as I'm driving it. But sometimes the theme from The Shining pops into my head as I'm driving that. Thoughts of Clockwork Orange? I seriously doubt they would make. Oh, Clockwork Orange would not be made today. Um, Stanley Kubrick would not be. For as much as I just said, like, I'm kind of like meh on Stanley Kubrick now. Stanley Kubrick would not be allowed to make the movies that he would want to make today, because he is too relentless in what he depicts. And in Clockwork Orange, I mean, it has a graphic surprise sex scene in it, right? Which is the point, is that it's not turning away from the scene. Like, it's not being discreet about it. The point of Clockwork Orange, a lot of it, is that you are seeing the violence, and it's not discreet, and it's not turning away from it. And yeah, no, you're not seeing that today, unless it was like framed as like, oh, this is a searing takedown of toxic masculinity and white supremacy or something. They might give it that angle, but yeah, I can't see them doing Clockwork Orange today. That's for sure. Barbed Wire is a remake of Casablanca. I'm not joking. Maybe. I haven't seen Barbed Wire, so I wouldn't know. Favorite Fritz Lang's Metropolis, which is a good pick. I might get a copyright strike if I did that. Yeah, I probably would. If I posted my edit of 2001. I bet you would before The Shining book, then the movie, yeah. Creators of Superman, Schuster and Siegel were fans of Metropolis. That's why they named the city in the comic after that movie, yeah. That makes sense to me. More toys. Before I unbox something, I should point out that I did get my first ever Mythic Legions figures. I saw on Facebook Marketplace somebody in a town an hour and a half away from where I live was selling Mythic Legions figures for $20 a piece. And so it's like, that is ridiculous, because these things are usually like $60, $70, $80 Canadian a piece. So I drove an hour and a half to that city to get these figures. And so I picked up this guy, which is the Skeleton Legion Builder. Love this. I actually got this guy as set dressing, basically, for my Universal Monsters toys. He just kind of sits in the back with the diorama that I'm putting together, and just stands guard. That's why I would love to collect these figures, but A, I don't have a stable income right now. And two, they're really expensive. They're more expensive than the NECA figures that they're meant to be props for. So, but I did get the Skeleton Legion Builder, and I got this because my wife thought he was hilarious. This Goblin guy, which he's got this adorable little frog face going on. So I picked him up as well, because they were so cheap. I was like, dude, how can you be selling them for this cheap? So, anyways, got my first Mythic Legions figures. Mythic Legions is by the Four Horsemen, who used to work for Todd McFarlane, and then they did the 2002 He-Man toys, which are great. And then they've since done their own company, and now they're doing this Mythic Legions line, which is sort of fantasy line. They've got a science fiction line, like a space line, and they've also got this Figura Obscura line, which are like literary characters, stuff like that. So they've got the Headless Horseman, which looks amazing. It's an amazing looking figure, and it's also almost $200 Canadian to buy. Krampus, Santa Claus, and Sun Wukong from the Journey to the West. So I would love to get those figures, but right now I'm not really in a financial place where I can justify spending that kind of money on figures. First I have to pay rent, and then I'd prefer to save money to... I can buy smaller figures, and stuff I really love. But I should be saving money to try and do some more traveling and stuff like that, now that that's an option again, on my sort of seasonal work sort of schedule here. But, right, toy unboxing. Oh, more questions. Well, we'll hold off on the unboxing. We'll do some more questions here. Mix up the questions and the toys. What is my favorite Halloween movie? Okay, do you mean a Halloween-themed movie, or do you mean a movie from the Halloween franchise? Because that question could go either way. Cool figures, frog. What do I think of Universal turning their monsters into comic foils for Abbott and Costello? I think that Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is one of the best horror comedies ever made. I think that, for me, the top 4 horror comedies are Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, Arsenic and Old Lace, the one with Gary Cooper... no, sorry, not Gary Cooper. Why can't it... Cary Grant. There we go. Comedy of Terrors, and Ghostbusters. Those are like the 4 greatest horror comedies ever made. Right? So, in that respect, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is amazing. And, I mean, Abbott and Costello are funny. So, the other movies, I mean, there's diminishing returns, right? Like, Meet the Invisible Man is okay. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde's okay. The Mummy is okay. Where I can see where people would have misgivings with them. Yes, the original Ghostbusters. Is that the monsters are very much these sort of one-note archetypes. So, I don't mind that they're playing foils to Abbott and Costello. In fact, one of the strengths of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is that the horror parts are scary and the funny parts are funny. It was really intelligent of them not to downplay the one for the sake of the other. But the monsters are still the one-note archetypes, right? And that's where you see those archetypes. So they brought back Bela Lugosi to play Dracula. He's not playing him the same way he played him in 31. But, Bela Lugosi's Dracula. Okay, right, because that's the classic Dracula. Glenn Strange is the monster is a prop. Right, the monster walks around, whatever. And then poor Larry Talbot, he comes on screen, gives some exposition, looks at the moon, complains he's going to turn into a werewolf, turns into a werewolf, and then the next morning, repeat the next scene. So he's locked into now that archetype, that stereotype of Larry Talbot agonized turning into the Wolfman. Okay. So I can see where someone would have reservations about the Abbott and Costello movies, in that they reduce the monsters to these one-note archetypes. And that's where I've said in my videos that that's where they become those archetypes. And they become these sort of fun, sugary bits of Halloween candy, as opposed to like characters that are undergoing development. Right. The real end of the Universal Monsters series there with Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman was House of Dracula. Because Dracula gets killed, the monster, whatever happens to him, and then Larry is cured. That is the actual end of the story. And then they pull him out again for this movie that's not really in the continuity, right? It's now these characters turned into their eternal petrified... the petrified form, the petrified archetype. And the Invisible Man, he's in there too. So I love the movie. I can understand the reservations about it. I myself compartmentalize it. That, yeah, this is what I'm watching now, is the petrified archetype of these monsters. And that is fun. Because remember, by that time anyways, the Universal Monsters series was kind of getting long in the fang, right? They were kind of dwindling. And I actually like House of Dracula. I've been paying attention to it again, because I might do a video about the House movies. Or I might do a whole video about this whole spiel, the difference between House of Dracula and Abbott Costello Frankenstein. So, the Universal monster movies by the end were starting to get kind of like, yeah, anyways. So they're not like they're like as good as they were in the 30s. And I love Meet Frankenstein, and I enjoyed the other movies. But I can see where it's like, yeah, these aren't the same movies as they were in the 30s, right? Or Dracula in 31 is eerie. Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, these really interesting black comedies with, where there's actual character development for the monster. Then Son of Frankenstein, they turn him into a prop, and he stays a prop for the next whole rest of the series. Yeah, anyways. Not much to choose in the Halloween series, yeah. Well, my favorite movie for watching on Halloween would be the Disney Legend of Sleepy Hollow. That is my favorite Halloween movie. I have to watch that every year. And in fact, if we don't watch it on, Tuesday? I'm watching it tomorrow night. So, wife, you've been warned. We have to do the annual thing where we watch Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Night on Bald Mountain and the spooky Disney cartoons, like Trick or Treat and Lonesome Ghost and stuff like that. That is my Halloween ritual. I have to watch those movies on Halloween. So that would be Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Disney version. That would be my favorite Halloween movie. Another good movie to watch on Halloween is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I've been to parties where I'm like, here, I will bring a movie. And that's a movie I brought, and everyone loves it, right? Because it's nice and light. It's funny, but it's got the monsters in it, and it's great. Mad Monster Party, the Rankin Bass movie, is also good, although it is a bit long. It does drag a bit because they very clearly stretched it out from being like a TV special to being a feature movie. There's a couple scenes in there where you could take those out, take out a couple of the bad songs, and it's a much shorter and tighter and better movie. But Mad Monster Party is also a good contender for a Halloween movie. Alien is a great film in my opinion, and it could have been more dark and weird because they were originally going to kill off Ripley. The aliens speak, and Dallas's voice was sided against it. I mean, Alien's not bad. It's just very nihilistic. Right? Larry Talbot was a very sympathetic character in House of Frankenstein. Yeah. Yep. And I actually like House of Dracula more as a satisfactory ending, right? Because House of Frankenstein was very A plot, B plot. Like, okay, here's like a half hour of a Dracula movie, and then here's another 45 minutes of here's like 20 minutes of a Dracula movie and 40 minutes of a Wolfman movie. And then it ends tragically. Whereas House of Dracula, it gives the right people the happy endings for the most part. So I actually and it's a better integrates the plots. So the Dracula and the Wolfman plots, it integrates those a lot better, and it introduces some new and crazy things into it. So I do like House of Dracula more than House of Frankenstein. What about Monster Squad? Monster Squad is fine. I'm not in love with it, but it's a fine tribute. Alien was a copy of It, The Terror from Beyond Space. Yeah. Yeah, did Alien actually begin the 80s trend of remaking 50s horror or 50s horror and sci-fi movies into bloody, gory messes of 80s slasher movies? All right, next toy unboxing. All right, so I picked this up. I've been wanting to get this one, but it kind of disappeared, and then I found them at a local toy store and comic shop for like super cheap Canadian, and it is the Fly, the Mego Fly figure. Wanted to get him because the chance of NECA making a Fly figure of the original Fly is probably pretty slim. So I wanted to pick up the Mego Fly figure. So let's do an unboxing on this guy because I am not keeping him in the box. I want to take him out and I want to play with him. So now the original Mego, I actually had a Mego Batman figure when I was a kid because I was born in '77. And so right at sort of the dawn of the modern action figure, like the 3 3/4 inch Star Wars toys, that sort of thing. So a lot of those old Mego figures were still floating around when I was a kid. So I did have a Batman one. Yeah, here we go. The Fly. And yeah, see if I can get his limbs going. There we go. He's got ratchets. That's different from the ones that I grew up with. He's flocked. He's so fuzzy. Oh, just wanna. There we go. Yeah. So here he is. Yeah, I mean he's got classic Mego joints, so he's got a lot of fair bit of articulation actually. Um, Nice little lab coat there is soft goods. The trousers are soft goods. No peg in his feet though, so I can't stick him on a stand. I'll have to see if he's the same size as the NECA monsters, so he can hang out with them. His wrists should move, but yeah, there we go. He's got the one little fly claw as appropriate. Oh, this should be a human hand here, not a flocked black hand, but whatever. I'm not gonna be too picky about that. And his little head there. Let's fix that here. Where is he? There he is. Yeah, not super detailed because it is a Mego figure, so it's meant to be like deliberately retro, which is fine. I mean, I would still buy the NECA one if NECA came out with a classic Fly figure, but for right now, this guy will do. Hooray for the Fly! Yes. He never perfected his teleportation machine. Nope. Help me! Help me! Yes, he doesn't come with the accessory of the little fly with the human head, but yeah, the final one's a fly. Yeah. If you were to make a King Kong project, how will you do it? I know I do, and the ending of The Fly scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Yeah, definitely. I'll come back to that one, Otaku. Doug says here, favorite Halloween movie, drama and story, The Wolfman. Chinese Larry was so tragic for chills, Japanese original Godzilla. You know, I can see that. I would pick Wolfman over Godzilla, just because Godzilla, it doesn't, for me, have that Halloween atmosphere, right? So, to me, it's not just about, it's a scary movie. It's like, what feels like Halloween? What feels like autumn and pumpkins and spooky, right? Which Godzilla doesn't. Godzilla is an amazing film. Godzilla, the original Gojira, is one of the best films ever made, and definitely one of the best Japanese films ever made. But for Halloween, I would go with like spooky pumpkin stuff, which is like Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Oh, his just notice his lab coat is Velcro. So let's see. Oh, showing. Oh, he's got like a 6-pack. Look at how built the Fly is. Oh my god, dude's more muscular than me. Well done. It's been. He's like, well, first of all, beam me into the body of a bodybuilder. So, all right, but that's the Fly figure. So that is awesome, and I'm glad to have him. Add him to my collection of stuff. Whether he's going to go with my Universal Monster figures or whether he's going to be part of like my backdrop, because I've kind of rejigged my whole backdrop here because I used to have all the fossils and stuff, but I have. Honestly, I've kind of thrown in the towel on doing the school programs and stuff that I used to do, because I've not been getting the bookings for that. So I thought there's no sense in having a display set up for doing school programs about rocks and fossils if I'm not doing them. And all I am doing are YouTube videos about monsters and stuff. I might as well have the monster toys and things. So maybe I'll keep the Fly there. I don't know. Anyways, and it's weird that I like the Fly because I grew up, in my teenage years, I lived on a ranch. I am actually a ranch boy. I grew up around cows and horses. And man, I hate flies so much. The buzz triggers me so much. So I don't know why I would want a Fly figure, but there he is, nonetheless. Green Eyes and the Fly, yeah. Fly 2 sequels, yeah, well, kind of. Return of the Fly is a weird superhero movie. And The Curse of the Fly is like, what is this movie about? Like, it's so out of left field for like the third movie in the Fly franchise. So he made a fan film where Godzilla fought a giant version of the Wolfman. All right. Okay. let's see here. All right, so Creature Otaku 20 asked, if I were to make a King Kong project, how would I do it? You know, if I were given infinite money to produce my own King Kong movie, my inclination would actually be to drag Kerry Conran out of mothballs, whatever he's doing right now. He is the director. He is the guy who did Sky Captain and The World of Tomorrow. I would pull him out of mothballs, and I would get him to do a sequel to the original King Kong. Because honestly, I'm going to stick with what I have said before, which is that I think the original King Kong, 1933, is one of the best movies ever made. And when you have already made a damn near perfect movie, you can't make a better version of it. So I couldn't, there's no way I could even do a King Kong movie that could compare to the original. So I have thought, and I think I talk about this in my The Son of Kong That Could Have Been video, that I thought that it would make a good trilogy. You would make 2 sequels, and the first sequel is them going back to the island, and the second sequel is the island getting destroyed. And in that, you have this whole story around like Denham's redemption and finding out more about the island and who built the wall and all that sort of stuff. All that history that is alluded to in the original movie but is never talked about in the original movie. Some of the stuff that Joe DeVito's been trying to do with his books and things like that. And terrible video games, apparently. But to build on that stuff with a pair of sequels that I would do very deliberately in the style of a 1933 movie. That would be my first inclination. Second inclination would be, I don't know, maybe we'll like work with Toho and do like a Reiwa era version of Japanese King Kong. Like, I mean, I don't know how you would get him to fight Godzilla, because there's no consistent Godzilla in the Reiwa era either. Like, the Reiwa era is Shin Gojira, the anime trilogy, Singular Point, and now this Godzilla -1. So I don't know. I don't know. But Japanese King Kong would always be fun to revisit, right? King Kong Escapes, the Rankin Bass King Kong, that whole thing would be fun to do. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I would have to think more about like what would be my King Kong dream project, because my main King Kong dream project is just getting the original film the recognition it deserves, right? Have you heard of Over the Garden Wall? I have heard of it, but I have not watched it. It's a Cartoon Network miniseries that implements fall and winter seasons that can be considered a Halloween special because it plays a huge part in it. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll have to watch it. You'd like to remake of The Fly? Did you know that in the Ghost of Frankenstein trailer, they call the monster the King of the Monsters before Godzilla rightfully too had that title? Sure. A lot of King of the Monsters going around there. In fact, Godzilla wasn't even the King of the Monsters yet for a while. That is why King Kong got top billing in King Kong vs. Godzilla, and why King Kong won King Kong vs. Godzilla. Because King Kong was still the more popular monster, the better known monster, the good guy. Godzilla was a villain in that movie. And villains don't win a movie in 1962. What about a prequel to King Kong? Who made the map of Skull Island that Carl Denham found? Well, I mean, they did answer that in Son of Kong, right? So, I mean, that's one of the interesting things about Son of Kong, actually, that I do enjoy it for what it is that it's a good epilogue. Like, it doesn't stand alone as like a great film on its own, but it is a good epilogue to King Kong that sort of wraps up the loose ends, right? So you meet the Norwegian skipper who gave Denham the map, and you find out what happens to Denham after King Kong, right? So it's a fun, charming little movie in its own right as a little epilogue to King Kong. and it's pulling together those loose ends and that sort of thing. Queen says, was there an earlier expedition of Skull Island where nobody returned? I mean, you could do a prequel movie. And that's what the Disney Plus series is supposed to be, right? If they ever make it. Is the adapting Joe DeVito's version of the history of Skull Island. I don't, honestly, though, I don't know that you could really do a prequel that is interesting. Because what is there to do a prequel about? You know? The society that built the wall? Like, yeah, I guess. If you could invent some kind of grand historical epic of how the islanders found how they found the island, how they settled it, how they built the wall, their relationship with the Kongs, that sort of thing, as like this grand, like how the West was won style epic. I don't know. Because part of what makes Kong so interesting is that it's a mystery as well, right? Like they go to this island, and there's these mysterious ruins, this mysterious wall, this mysterious civilization, this mysterious monkey. In sequels, you could sort of unfold that. Like they go back to the island and they find the ruins, and from the ruins they can piece together the original story. Because that still has an element of mystery to it, right? And that sort of exotic mystery is a key part of what makes Kong such a fun and interesting movie. So I'm not sure if just a straight prequel where you're like, hey, look at here's them building the wall, would really be all that interesting or necessary. But I don't know. I mean, I'd watch it, sure. I'm this close to getting rid of Disney Plus now that they're upping the price and putting in ads and stuff. I just haven't watched all of Zorro yet, and Loki's pretty good. I will grant that, and What We Do in the Shadows. Yeah, I mean, I would watch it if it was on there. But I mean, that said, I haven't even watched the MonsterVerse Kong cartoon either yet. Yeah, I don't know. Have I seen Frankenstein Conquers the World? Yes, I have seen Frankenstein Conquers the World. It's actually one of the more interesting of the non-Godzilla Toho movies. So Ryan also wanted to make a movie about a giant Frankenstein monster. Yeah. King Kong versus Frankenstein, where the Frankenstein monster was actually just pieced together from like African animals, like hippos and elephants and stuff like that. Although honestly, I hear like King Kong versus Frankenstein, and the first thing that actually pops to mind is like Dr. Frankenstein getting the corpse of the first King Kong and rebuilding it and reviving it. And so the original King Kong is the Frankenstein, and then he's fighting a new King Kong. That would be how I would do that movie. But what do I know? Would you include another Kong-like creature, or would you just have dinosaurs and other strange inhabitants of Skull Island? I think for a sequel, I would build on Son of Kong. I would have other Kongs there, because I mean the existence of one Kong kind of necessitates the existence of other Kongs. So where's the rest of the Kongs, right? So I would want to explore like. King Kong is not just the king of Skull Island, he's the king of the Kongs as well, right? And maybe there'd be an evil Kong, which I guess is maybe this Godzilla times Kong movie, that the next MonsterVerse movie coming out. I don't know. But I would definitely... Yeah, I'd want to explore a lot of those things. Like, so more dinosaurs, more of the ruins and the ancient civilization, and more of the Kongs. A local comic store has a big 10-inch, 12-inch figure of Vincent Price as Dr. Phoebes, or had a few months ago. Not sure if I want to pull the trigger, but it's lovely. Yeah, sure. NECA is doing a Vincent Price figure in their Ultimates line, so it'll scale with the Universal Monster figures, which is great, and I love that it's just Vincent Price. It's not a Vincent Price character, it's just Vincent Price. So I'm looking forward to that one coming out. I'm going to get that guy for sure. A lot of the people who worked on King Kong also helped produce Mighty Joe Young. Yeah, that is definitely a sort of spiritual successor to King Kong, although a very different movie. I've not seen King Kong Lives. And I actually haven't seen all of the 1976 Kong either. Shameful. As a Kong fan, I have not seen all of those movies. because, as I have stressed many times, I am not actually a King Kong fan, as like a fan of the monster. I am a fan of the movies. So what I love is the 1933 movie, and I collect King Kong stuff as like an avatar of that movie. And I mentioned this in my video where I bought the Fay Ray Barbie, that I would love to see more merchandise of stuff from King Kong that's not King Kong. Like, I would love to see more figures and merchandise of the dinosaurs and of the human characters, and that sort of thing. Um, like, actually, something I thought Mego should do when Mego came back is they have like the large scale figures and they have like the smaller scale figures. This is one of the smaller scale figures. I thought what they should have done is make a large scale figure of King Kong and smaller scale figures of the humans. So at least like Fay Ray, right, and Darrow. So you have the like this size figure of Fay Ray and then the large scale figure of King Kong. Would be a perfect pair. Um, but they didn't do that. There's still time. I mean, they could still. um, but so yeah, so I love the original 33 King Kong, and I love Japanese King Kong, because it's like an extension of the whole kaiju. And okay, so there's two parts of Japanese King Kong. The first part of Japanese King Kong is the Japanese reaction to the original movie, so I lump that under the original movie. And then there is Toho King Kong, right? So there's the King Kong show, and King Kong versus Godzilla, and King Kong Escapes, and all those paintings from the Asahi Sonorama magazine and stuff like that. So Japanese King Kong is a whole fascinating thing on its own, right? It's not the same King Kong as 33, but it's like fun kaiju version of King Kong. And it's interesting to see how they took the King Kong idea and ran with it in their own format with sort of the mid-century Showa era kaiju movies. I like Kong as a character insofar as it represents these movies. So I don't really like 70s movies, and I've heard so many bad reviews about the 76 Kong and its sequel that I'm just not interested. I did not like the 2005 Kong. I gave MonsterVerse a shot, and I'm kind of tapped out after the whatever King Kong or Godzilla versus Kong was. So, yeah, I don't feel obligated that I have to like everything with King Kong slapped on it, because what I like are the movies, not the character as such. And I'm the same way with like Godzilla and stuff too. Like, I don't like every Godzilla movie just because Godzilla's in it. And in fact, I love the fun, like crazy, destroy all monsters and Invasion of the Astro Monster and stuff like that. Godzilla Final Wars. But my favorite Godzilla movies are all like the artsy fartsy ones. So the original Gojira, Shin Gojira. I am looking very much forward to Godzilla -1. It's supposed to premiere in North America on December 1st. So I'm very much looking forward to that because I like the dude's other movies too. Like Always Sunset on 3rd Street is beautiful. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. I even like the anime trilogy because it was an interesting movie. So like I don't feel obligated to like every Godzilla movie either. Dr. Phoebes, whatever. I've seen the Dr. Phibes movies. They didn't really do it for me. My favorite Vincent Price stuff is his are the Poe movies, and my all-time favorite Vincent Price movie is Comedy of Terrors. Like that is to me just that is the perfect peak Vincent Price movie. And the Fly movies are good, but he's only a supporting actor in those anyways. Evil Company kidnapped King Kong on Skull Island for some reason. Yeah. 2-pack DVD version of the Twin Towers of the Empire State Building. Yeah. Think of Godzilla 98. I try not to think of Godzilla 98 if I can help it. I saw Godzilla 98 in the theater, and I remember walking out thinking that wasn't Godzilla. That was the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. If they had just called that the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, it would have been what it was, right? But they had to call it Godzilla, and it was not Godzilla. And I don't really think a whole lot of the directors either. Like I haven't liked any movie that dude has made. So like 2012 and Day After Tomorrow and 10,000 BC and whatever. They're all kind of garbage. So, I mean, whatever. I have tried to watch Godzilla 98 again with the frame of mind that canonically that is Zilla and not Godzilla. Like in the Toho canon, that monster is not Godzilla, that is a different monster. Um, and he got his ass royally kicked in Final Wars, which was very cathartic. I love seeing that. Um, so I tried watching it again with the mental framework that's not Godzilla. And I still couldn't do it. It was still such a terrible movie. So it's like, no, I'm good. I'm done. So yeah. In fact, in my opinion, the only reasonably passable American Godzilla movie is King of the Monsters. Everything else is kind of bad in one way or another. Mr. Price played Egghead on the Batman TV show. Yes, he did. Did a cartoon based on Godzilla 98? Yes, they did as well. I did not watch it because I did not like the 98 Godzilla, so why would I watch the cartoon? I hear the cartoon's actually pretty good. But I don't care. I don't care. It can be as good as it wants to be. I'm just not interested. In my opinion, Mars Attacks is way better than Independence Day. Yeah, I would agree with that. Even for all of its flaws, Mars Attacks is a better movie than Independence Day, certainly. And actually, I think it was Red Letter Media actually pointed out that if you watch Mars Attacks in black and white, it actually looks way better. There's there's a certain flatness to it that doesn't look good in color, but when they put the black and white filter over it, it looked great. Like it looked like perfectly like a movie from the 50s. So that might be something to do sometime, is watch the Mars Attacks black and white edition. 76 Kong was trying to beat out the box office of Jaws. When Jaws died, nobody cried. When the monkey died, everybody cried. Well, I don't think they were crying because the monkey dying in 76 Kong. I think they were crying because of what happened in that movie. Opinion on Godzilla dancing in Monster Zero. You think Invasion of the Astro Monster, where he does like the whoo, whoo. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely something else. But I understand that apparently that dance move, the jumping thing, that was actually like a famous thing that like some Japanese celebrity did. And so they referenced it in the movie. Okay, sure, I guess. Like, okay. But I mean, that's definitely, one could look at that as a turning point for Godzilla into comical children's hero. Definitely. But that said, I do like Invasion of the Astro Monster. That's actually one of my favorite Godzilla movies, because it's got so much cool retro sci-fi stuff in it. The flying saucers, the zillions, and the spaceships, and the orbital platforms, and all that sort of stuff. It's like a really cool mid-century Japanese science fiction movie that just happens to also be a Godzilla movie. So I actually do like Invasion of the Astro Monster a lot. And I wish they brought the Zillions back, because they have all these other aliens they keep bringing in, like the Killax and stuff like that, who do the same plot as the Zillions, right? Like, oh, we're going to take over the minds of these monsters, use them to attack. Just bring back the Zillions! Like, come on! But even then, I suppose one could argue that the Zillions themselves were just a knockoff of the Mysterians. So, what about Godzilla flying in Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster? You guys are picking out all the worst moments in Godzilla history. Flying Godzilla is ridiculous. But I suppose it kind of works because all of Godzilla vs. Hedorah is an insane movie. That is also one of my favorite Godzilla movies because it is so weird. And Hedorah is a great monster. And I like Hedorah as a monster. And the movie itself is admirable for how it tries to do something new with Godzilla and the format of a Godzilla movie. Like, it's this totally like whacked out, psychedelic, psychotronic sort of movie. And I kind of admire that. It's so weird. And it's befitting the weirdness of the monster as well. And I like when they get away from like monsters that are just like versions of dinosaurs, because it's kind of like perfected in Godzilla. So stranger monsters like Dogora, like Hedorah, are tend to be more my favorites. But as for the flying Godzilla, I mean that's a little too much suspension of disbelief on that one, right? Like I can forget the square cube law to watch a Godzilla movie, but making Godzilla fly is a bit much. However, there was a funny episode of Godziban about that. So, and if you do not watch Godziban, watch Godziban. Oh my god, Godziban is amazing. Watch Godziban. Um, what about Godzilla's infamous flying dropkick in Godzilla vs. Megalon? Also ridiculous. And unfortunately, the monsters in Godzilla vs. Megalon are great. And I think that Mezco, if they're still around, if they're still making toys, if they're still doing the 5-Point XL series, the next set they should do should actually be Godzilla vs. Megalon. Because then you get Godzilla, Jet Jaguar, Gigan, and Megalon all in one set. The monsters are great, but the movie itself is not that great. Although, I don't know if you saw this, on Godzilla Day, so November 3rd, one of the things that, because every year Toho releases like a new short film of Godzilla. So last year it was Godzilla versus Gigan Rex. And this year is going to be, there's actually two of them. One of them is The Final Wars Godzilla versus Jet Jaguar, and another one is like a sequel to Godzilla versus Gigan Rex where he fights Megalon. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. So I like Megalon as a monster. That's fine. It's just the movie itself was meh. Monster Zero was obviously inspired by Earth vs. the Flying Saucers. Yeah, sure. Do you think Godzilla was being influenced by the Gamera films in the 70s? I do not know because I have not seen all the Gamera films. As I've mentioned before, I've tried to get into Gamera and I just can't. I don't know why. I don't know what about Gamera just isn't clicking with me, but I just can't get into Gamera, so I haven't bothered to watch them. About the theme song in Godzilla vs. Smog Monster. I've only watched the Japanese version of Godzilla vs. Hedorah, so I'm not sure if it's the same theme song or not. Save the Earth, save the Earth, save the Earth. Yeah, I don't know if that's the same theme song. So, if I can help it, I only watch Godzilla movies in subs, not dubs. In fact, that's a general rule I have for most things. For anime and Godzilla movies and stuff, it's subs, not dubs. So that Jaws was more successful, not just because the monster, because it also had a great human characters, while the human characters in Godzilla 76 are just meh and King Kong and Jaws. Yeah. Yeah, I think if you think you're going to do better than Steven Spielberg, you probably should rethink things. I think Godzilla vs. Megalon was probably influenced by Ultraman. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like Jet Jaguar is obviously like trying to be like Toho's Ultraman. Because I mean, basically, like, didn't it either started as like a Jet Jaguar movie and then they threw in Godzilla, or it was meant to be like a soft pilot for like a backdoor pilot for Jet Jaguar movies. But it never happened because it was such a off movie. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, obviously Jet Jaguar is supposed to be Toho's answer to Ultraman. I mean, so was Zone Fighter, wasn't it? Which is technically a part of Showa era canon. But whatever. Nobody cares about Zone Fighter, and you can't get Zone Fighter translated over here, so whatever. You have to see the dubbed version. Do I? I guess I. Okay. I mean, I guess I have it because I have the Criterion box set of all the Showa Godzilla movies, so I suppose it's on the disc. Superman beats them all? Like the 79 Superman? Or just Superman in general? Not the same with Calum 33 was an adventure, while Jaws was a slasher film in the ocean. Yep, I would agree with that. All right. Last toy unboxing. I saved the best for last. So, took a while to get here, but it finally did. And I called the local comic and toy shop, actually the same one where I bought the fly at, and I've been bugging them like about every 2 weeks or so. Like, is it in yet? Is it in yet? Is it in yet? And it finally was in, and I rushed out in like a half hour and got it. But the NECA Creature from the Black Lagoon figure has finally come into Canada. Finally able to get him. Hooray! So, let's... There he is. Look at him. He's beautiful. Although he's a little bit... The light's shining off the box. So, let's crack this guy open, shall we? So this is the last of the... Probably the last of the NECA Universal Monster figures, period, frankly. I missed the Phantom, stupidly enough. Because the Universal Monster NECA figures stay around forever. Like, I could go out right now and still buy Frankenstein and the Mummy and the Invisible Man and the Wolfman. So, they stick around forever. So I thought, in my stupidity, like, oh, well, you know, the Phantom, he's coming out, but he'll probably be around forever, so I'll just pick him up when I get the creature. And anywhere that's had the Phantom has sold out. And, in fact, even online, he is sold out everywhere. So I'm wondering if NECA, like, just didn't produce a lot of them, because they didn't think as many people would buy him. So I haven't got the Phantom yet. But, as far as the Magnificent Seven goes, of the top Universal Monsters, I got the final one, who comes with 3 heads and 4 sets of hands altogether. Let's open that up. So yeah, I would love for NECA to do more of the Universal Monsters, the trophy room. Ah! I would love for NECA to keep doing Universal Monster figures. Because, I mean, I have a list as long as my arm of every character from Universal Monsters. I would love to see Igor. Bela Lugosi's Igor. I would love to see Dracula's daughter. I would love to see the Metaluna mutants. I would love to see Werewolf of London. I would love to see Hunchback of Notre Dame. Lon Chaney version. Or, it's RKO, but the Charles Lawton version. I would take either version of the Hunchback. Gwynplaine from the Man Who Laughs. I mean, you name it. I would love a Universal Monster figure of it. Actually, one I would really love to get is Edward Van Sloan. Like, just an Edward Van Sloan figure. So, ostensibly, he could be Van Helsing, but come with the extra head, so you can make him look like Dr. Mueller or Dr. Waldman. Because he basically plays the same character in Dracula, the Mummy, and Frankenstein. But, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Renfield. I would love to see a 3-pack of Abbott, Costello, and the Glen Strange monster. All of that. I would eat all of that up. But I have a feeling that NECA is done now with this line, because they have gone several toy shows now without announcing anything new. And NECA seems like the kind of company that is content to produce just the 7 figures, or 8 figures, I guess, with the Phantom, and then just keep doing endless variants of them. So we've got the Remco versions of them. We've got the black and white versions of them. I'm surprised they didn't do a 3D version of the creature where he's like in red and blue. They just came out in a loot box. They just came out with the Burger King version of the Frankenstein monster. So if you remember the old Burger King toys, there was that one that was like Frankenstein monster with the clear green hands and head, which I have that figure actually somewhere around here kicking around. I'm sorry, my mind is suddenly went to like, where are those figures? Where did I put them? So they did a variant of that. So they're good at doing variants of the figures that they've made. It's also why when they had the Godzilla license, they made 1 million Godzillas and none of the monsters. Like the other monsters, right? So there was no NECA Mothra and NECA Gigan and whatever, right? It was just Godzilla after Godzilla after Godzilla. So I have a suspicion that this is the end of the NECA line with the creature here. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong, but I suspect that that will be it. However, there might be hope yet for non-universal monsters, because I mean they're doing Nosferatu, and they're doing Professor Burke from London After Midnight, which isn't even a movie that exists anymore. So I could actually see them doing like the Frederick March, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde. I could see them doing maybe some of the other, like, maybe slightly lesser known monsters. I could see them doing Bela Lugosi from White Zombie. I think that one's well known enough that they might do that figure. All right, I got to get Creech out here. There we go. That came out. Oh, look at this guy. He's so cool. Nice. So, got to do, first of all, T-pose. There he is. He just griefed you in your online game. Yeah, double jointed knee there. So you can get... I want to be so careful with this because NECAs can break out of the box if you're not careful. So, but we got double jointed knee, double jointed arm. And one thing that's great about the creature is because he is so scaly, the scales hide the joints really well. Because I complained about with King Kong that, because King Kong is just like one layer of fur, that the joints show up really, like, too much. Whereas on Creech here, the joints barely show up at all because he's already scaly. So, that's awesome. Oh, this figure's so good. And he's a nice sort of green color with these gold and red accents on him. Yeah. Look at that figure. That is nice. I'm going to put a different head on him here. Careful. Don't. Okay, how does this go on? Come on. There we go. One head off. Next head on. Get on there. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Monster Kid Cory Halloween Hot Live Stream. I don't know why he sounds like that, but he does. Hi! I kind of love this. I love this face. This is the head that's going to stay on him, I think. Hi, everybody. Yeah, this is great. What are the different hands here? Oh my god, can I get the hands off? Aha! Here we go. There's a little soap to loosen the joints. Yeah, maybe I should. I actually haven't had too much problem with... yeah, it's his grabby hand right there. I haven't had too much problem with the Universal Monster ones. My Frankenstein monster, one of his ankle pivots doesn't work. And I don't want to force it, because I don't want to break it. But the Kong figures, I actually went through a couple of Kong figures because they kept breaking. So yeah. But I'm actually going to put... Oh, which hand do I want to put on him right now? Let's see, the big hand? Oh, yeah. He's all like, hey! Yeah, as seriously as I take the movies, the toys, my favorite thing to do with them is, like, absolutely ridiculous poses and situations. That, not quite making fun of them, but are definitely on the more comedic side. Where is the matching hand for that? There we go. I gotta organize these hands so I know which sets of hands go with which. That's sort of the normal hands. That is more sort of cloche hands. So that looks like that is the matching hand for this. Yeah. Jazz hands. There we go. Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream. That is, I love this guy. He's great. My favorite figure of the line is still Dracula. Bela Lugosi, the likeness of Bela Lugosi looks amazing, but this is a pretty close second. He's pretty awesome. I love this guy. Hey! All right, I've been missing out on the comments here. So where have we been at? As I've been playing with my creature. That's what she said. Jaws died. The sharks experts cried. Creature appeared in 3 movies. Yeah. They almost made Abbott and Costello meet the creature at one time. The creature from the Black Lagoon does appear on an episode of the Abbott and Costello TV series. So when you go on like eBay or whatever, and you see this video available of Abbott and Costello meet the creature, that's that episode of their TV series. And it actually is, they go to like Universal Studios and they're in the costume department and the costumes come alive. So they meet like the Frankenstein monster and they meet the creature from the Black Lagoon comes alive in the Universal costume department. The Man Who Laughs was the original Joker, yeah. Have I seen Guillermo del Toro's Creature from the Black Lagoon tribute, The Shape of Water? I have actually not seen The Shape of Water. I don't know why I haven't seen it. I just haven't got around to seeing it. I'm not as in love with Guillermo del Toro as everybody else seems to be. Pan's Labyrinth was fine, but I hated Pacific Rim. I hated Pacific Rim so much. So I'm not like overwhelmed with like Guillermo del Toro's the best guy ever, and I love all of his stuff. So meh. There was only NECA Monster vs. Roy and Mothra. Yeah, they never made like show. They make a version of Godzilla from every Godzilla movie, but they don't make like Rodan and Mothra and King Kong and stuff like that. I want to see figures of Tarantula and the Deadly Mantis. Yeah, that would be great. Might be a little out of scale with the rest of the characters, though. I mean, it's like Titan class Tarantula, Titan class Deadly Mantis. But that said, I mean, you could just get like a toy of a mantis, and it would be basically the same thing, right? So, for those ones like, Safari, who does dinosaur toys, they also do like large scale toys of other animals too. So they might have a large tarantula that you could use for tarantula. They might have a large praying mantis figure you could just use for the Deadly Mantis. Be worth looking into, actually. I love this face. This expression kills me. He is staying like this permanently. Let's see. Awesome likeness, lots of detail. Yeah, I love this figure. This is great. The NECA ones are great. The Jada toys, the Jada Universal Monster toys, are fine as like toyetic figures. Like those ones I would give to a kid to play with. Like here's your Dracula. Leave Daddy's Dracula alone. Daddy's Dracula is the NECA Dracula, and kid can have the Jada Dracula. Let's see. I love Hedera, one of my favorites too. The origin and design concept is just amazing. I use him as my Facebook main photo for October every year. Yeah, Hedera is definitely one of the most inventive of the of Godzilla's foes there. The soapless and joints. Why don't they make Gillman from The Creature Walks Among Us? That would be fine. If NECA continued the line. Sideshow, a million years ago, Sideshow they did like every version of every monster. And Reaction actually has a Creature Walks Among Us figure as well. But again, Reaction, those are those 5-point figures that look deliberately retro, and you're supposed to leave them in the box, leave them on the card as an art piece, right? I would not hold my breath on NECA making a Creature Walks Among Us figure. I would love to see them make more Universal Monster figures. I am not expecting them to. I think that one's been done before. I'm pretty sure that, like I said, that Sideshow did a Creature Walks Among Us figure, and I know that Reaction has done one, because I've seen it. Back in the 70s, a model company, Aurora NPC, made model dioramas of giant critters. My friend and I built the tarantula, mantis, and giant wasp. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was Aurora or NPC. I think it was Aurora. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong? Could have been Lindbergh too, actually. That is something to look into. Who did those giant giant insect model kits? Somebody in the chat, Google it. I always wanted to see that version of the creature fight Frankenstein. Oh, the Creature Walks Among Us versus Frankenstein. There are so many monster movies they could have made, like monster combinations, which maybe we'll talk about next month. Shape of Water won Best Picture. Yeah, I know that. Pacific Rim was inspired by Japanese robot anime. I know that. In fact, I know it so well that as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is this episode. This is the episode where we get the flashback. This is the filler episode. Like, I could tell, like, where in an anime series this episode would have been. Um, that didn't mean I liked it, though. I still did not like it. Actually, my favorite live action anime movie is Godzilla Final Wars. Godzilla Final Wars is a live action anime done in the best way. Um, Pacific Rim is a live action anime done in the worst way. I did not like it. It did not work for me. Sorry, I keep playing with the creature. He's so cool. Where should he go? Where can I put him where he's not going to fall down? Can he fit up here without getting pushed off by the leaves? Okay, stay there. All right, stay. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. When I got to Pacific Rim, I was like, man, I want to watch Macross again. That's what Pacific Rim did. Clint Eastwood appeared briefly in Tarantula and Revenge of the Creature. Correct, he did. He was the pilot in Tarantula, and he was a lab tech in Revenge of the Creature. Anyone remember the figure of the Werewolf of London? Yeah, that was the Sideshow. Was the last one to do a toy of him. I think. I'm not sure if there's a reaction figure of Werewolf of London. There might be a reaction figure, but I mean, if we're talking like, reasonably sized figures with good articulation, I think Sideshow would have done a Werewolf of London figure. Yeah, I've seen American Werewolf in London. I have seen American Werewolf in London. Second best Wolfman movie? Well, sure. The Mummy should have been pitted against another monster. Yes. There's a lot they could have done with the Mummy. I mean, I like that they didn't continue the story of Imhotep. Not because I didn't like Imhotep. I thought it was brilliant. But I also like the fact that it kind of ended. Like, it's just like, okay, he's dead. He's gone. Poof. He's done. His story's done. There's no more to his story. That said, if I was given charge of the Universal Monsters franchise, and I was commissioning new stories with the old monsters, like a cartoon or a comic or something like that, Dracula versus the Mummy versus Imhotep is definitely one of the front runner stories that I would do. Yeah, I think that one would be interesting to see, just because like you pit these two ancient monsters against each other, and sort of like Ankhsenamen, her soul has now gone into another body. And so Imhotep is trying to get her, but then Dracula's taken interest in her, so Dracula wants to turn her into a vampire. So now it's like Imhotep and Dracula fighting over this woman who has been sort of is the new reincarnation of Ankhsenamen. I think would be kind of a fun story. But even had Minnie in it. Yep. What's your opinion on Jack Pierce? A lot of people don't even know who he is today. Well, I mean, Jack Pierce is a genius, right? I mean, what more do you say? He's the guy that invented the look for all the monsters. I mean, I guess was it Millicent Patrick who did the creature, designed the creature mostly. But I mean, Jack Pierce is a legend, right? There's a flunky at Universal Studios. Well, I mean, history bears him out, right? Jack Pierce was brilliant, and he created these monsters that we know and love today, these versions of them that we know and love. Created the look for Dracula, created the look for the Frankenstein monster, he created the look for the Wolfman, created the look for the man-made monster. So, I mean, you can't... I think his contribution to pop culture is incalculable, right? Because it's it's Halloween. Go down to Walmart. Go have a look at what's left of Halloween candy and the costumes and stuff. Go to Spirit Halloween. Have a look at the stuff there. When you see Frankenstein, what do you see? You see Jack Pierce's work. When you see, well, I mean, werewolves now, you kind of get like the American Werewolf look, right? The more wolf look with the snout and stuff. But I mean, the Wolfman is classic. They're all classics, right? And they're all Jack Pierce's designs. So I think he's definitely one of the unsung. Um, sorry, I just realized something. He's definitely one of the unsung people of pop culture history. It wouldn't be the same without him. Sorry, I just realized I can test the size of the fly here. Oh, good. The fly is about the same size as the NECA figures, so he can go on the shelf with the NECAs. Perfect. And I'm going to have to show off the shelf at some point um, because I made a fun shelf for my Universal Monster figures. So, anyways, the fly, you can go back right there for now until I move you and the creature to the right shelf. Actually, what I'd like to do with my Universal Monster figures is create a diorama at the store. I would love to get. Well, originally, what my plan was is that I wanted to get one of those fish tanks that has like all the bamboo around it, so like a tiki fish tank, to create a like a monster tiki bar where all the monsters are hanging out. That's what I wanted to do originally, but those fish tanks are hard to come by and very expensive when they do come up. So, next best option is I want to get a glass display case, and in each, like from IKEA, and like each of the little the shelves create like a different diorama scene with the figures. Mostly comedic because that's just how I am. So all my monsters are doing something stupid in the dioramas. Um, so I'd like to create that and just have it as like a display only little mini monster museum in my store. But we'll see. We'll see. I also want to create a fish tank diorama with the Mezco 5-point XL Godzilla figures because they are a perfect 1/700 scale, which is a lot of Japanese modeling is done in that scale because it's a good scale for like military, like it's good for castles and it's good for like battleships. So there's a lot of Japanese model kits in that 1/700 scale, which is what these guys accidentally fall into. So I'd like to do that, but I mean it's a question. The store is going to last through Christmas. It'll be a question if I want to keep it in the new year, just because sales. There's a recession out there. It's real out there, fam, and it's got everybody feeling all kinds of ways. And so sales have not been what they could be, what I'd like for them to be. So we'll see if I keep the store kicking around or not. So I'm a little bit cool on the idea of creating all these big dioramas and stuff and this mini monster museum for the store if the store is not even going to be around in the new year. But anyways, I'm getting off getting off on some other tangent there. Love the Fly's outfit. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it is very basic. I mean, a NECA figure would look a lot more impressive. We have a lot better sculpting and everything. But for a Fly figure at all, this is great. I mean, where else are you going to get a Fly figure from? Is NECA going to make one? I mean, maybe they might someday. There's all sorts of figures I could see them making, and I would love for them to make. But I'm not holding my breath, and it's not like they can read my mind, so they don't know that they should be making these. But NECA, if you're listening in, the Fly would be a great figure. Frederick March, Dr. Jekyll, Charles Lawton, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yeah, and then like every other Universal monster would be good. I had a thought for another one that I thought would be a good one for NECA to do. Oh yeah, Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. Could you imagine like a deluxe Audrey 2 figure from NECA? Like movable jaws and tentacles and stuff like that? It would be freaking amazing. So yeah, if NECA wants to get on to making an Audrey 2 figure, I would support that. I would buy that. I might even be willing to break my rule about what my upper limit on toy expenditures is, right? So I think I mentioned that, in fact, why I can't buy a whole lot of the Mythic Legions figures is that my upper limit for an action figure is like $60 Canadian. 70 maybe, but even that's pushing it. So, $100 for like an 8-inch action figure is like not going to happen, no matter how much I really want it. But, you know, if they did a super deluxe Audrey 2 figure, that was like huge and amazing, maybe want to consider. Maybe want to consider it. Everyone is tightening their belts nowadays. Yeah, you bet. Especially in Canada, because not only do we also have the recession going on, but our exchange rate is garbage right now. The Canadian dollar is worth like 73 cents US. Like, it is balls. And that makes it really hard when everything that you import to your store is from the US. And so you have to pay for the shipping, which is also nonsense. It's like I'm literally like 2.5 hours north of the border, and that jacks up the price for shipping like by $50 to $100. Like, it's just ridiculous. That's why I don't buy like tiki mugs from the U.S. Because the shipping is more than the mug is. So that's garbage. And then, yeah, people aren't buying the stuff because it's a recession, right? And everything I sell at the store is all luxury goods, right? Nobody needs monster action figures. Nobody needs an expensive goth purse, right? They're stuff that you buy because they're cool and they're luxury items. So yeah. I mean, I don't begrudge people for not shopping at my store. Like, I get it, and I have no right to people's money, so I'm not angry at anybody. It's just like, it sucks. It just sucks, is all. And I wish that there wasn't a recession and that everybody was coming to my store and buying all my things. American Werewolf also the best werewolf transformation scene put on screen. Sure. Yeah, I'd agree with that. When is somebody going to make a figure of the 50-foot woman? That would be fun. That would actually be another good one for Mego to do. In the large scale, King Kong versus the 50-foot woman would be a fun one. The thing with the 50-foot woman is that that's not a... she's not very distinctive, right? Like, you know, like if you know the movie, you know what she looks like. But otherwise, she's just like a large woman. And really what would make that figure would be the buildings and stuff that would scale with her, right? So, you know, you're working for NECA and you're making a 50-foot woman figure. You're making it at the 7-inch scale. So the same as the King Kong figures, right? And so King Kong, you get the one set where he's packaged with a pteranodon, the other set where he's packaged with a biplane. So now you are making a 50-foot woman toy. So you make the figure. What are the accessories you give her? The car, right, where she picks up the car. That's going to be one of the accessories, and that's going to be the accessory that probably makes the figure. Is that she's got to be able to hold the car. That would be the big one. What else? Like an electrical tower, I guess, like where she's there standing in front of the electrical tower. I mean, a building facade, I guess. Like where she's reaching into the hotel and grabbing her husband, would be another accessory to include in that figure. But and considering that she herself would be very plain, like she's just a half naked woman, most of the money would have to go into accessories for that figure to really pull together that she's 50 feet tall. Oh, Slacks Ferret, hello, welcome to the live stream. Good to see you. And our shipping rates are always awful, aren't they? Aren't they, Socks Ferrets? Woof. That is why I haven't got a lot of tiki mugs at the store lately, in case you were wondering. Because I have to buy in such a volume from Tiki Farm, and the expense of doing that, the shipping, is insane. And I have to buy a minimum 4 of every mug. And if a mug doesn't sell, then I don't make money on that entire shipment. So I've been, and with the cash flow being what it hasn't been, I haven't got in a whole lot of new mugs. So I'd like to, and I'd like to get in more like One Tiki and stuff like that, but it's I need to sell more mugs or get more mugs. Amazing Colossal Man would also be another interesting figure. Yeah, the half skull thing going on. SH Monster, it's Biolante, yeah. Like the one-eyed version of Colossal Man, he's scarier, yeah. They don't ever make the giant claw. I don't think there has ever been a giant claw figure. Somebody can correct me. Someone can Google that right now. But I do not think there has ever been a giant claw figure. Giant Claw Rodan. I think Rodan came first. Yeah. Not sure. I have to look at the exact dates, but yeah, Sluxford understood, yeah. I wish I could get in more stuff, and I mean, if I feel by more other things, I can bring in more tiki mugs too. Like if I sell out of purses, then I could bring in more mugs. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. I would certainly like to. Rodan is interesting. First half is a remake of them. The rest is a Monster Destroys City movie. Honestly, the only thing interesting about Rodan is that it's a bait and switch. I didn't find Rodan, the movie, all that interesting. Like, it didn't have the thematic heft of Gojira. And it was in color, which I find kind of actually diminishes a bit. But what makes it interesting is that there's a couple bait and switches, right? That it starts out with like these insect things in the mine, and it turns out that's not the monster. The monster is the giant pterodactyl, and there's two of them. So, yeah, that's about the best thing about Rodan as a movie. So, which is why he never starred in his own movie after that, either. What happened to the other Rodan, though? There should be more than one Rodan kicking around. But that said, there's more than one Godzilla kicking around, and in fact, I will continue to maintain that unless the next movie picks up exactly where the previous movie left off, there is no reason to assume that the Godzilla in any given movie is the same Godzilla. Because we know that there's Godzilla. So we know that there's at least two Godzillas, right? There's the Godzilla in the first movie that was killed, and there's the Godzilla from Godzilla Raids Again, who's just trapped. And we know there's a third Godzilla in Manila. And Manila had to come from somewhere. So at least there's a fourth Godzilla out there, right? So I still maintain, that there is no reason to assume that the Godzilla in any given movie is the same Godzilla, which would also explain why he looks different in different movies, and his character developed over time into a heroic figure, because maybe that's not the same Godzilla. But whatever. Rodan did good special effects, though, yeah. They should do a figure of the Meat Eater. My NECA Kong with my X Plus figure of that theropod. Yes, I would love for NECA to do the T-Rex or Allosaurus or Meat Eater or whatever you want to call it. I would love for them to do the other dinosaurs. I do not expect them to. I think Kong was a one and done. They made Kong figure, they made some variants of it, and now they're done with it. But, hey, at least we got those figures, right? So that's something good. And I do have the X Plus theropod. In fact, just today, I didn't upload the pictures, but I was filming something because I picked up a Kong-related thing, so I was filming a video. I was doing it at the store, and I took an updated photo and some video of my collection with the X Plus Kongs and theropod right there front and center. The Frankenstein Monster Swimming Instructor. Dracula working in the blood bank. Wolfman working on Animal Rescue Officer. Sure. That actually reminds me of, there's a song on Bobby Boris Pickett's album of the Blood Bank Blues, where Dracula is bemoaning how he's got the blood bank blues. I didn't pay my dues. They shut me out. Dun, 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 dun. It's a good song about Dracula and his troubles with the blood bank. They should make a figure of the T-Rex that fought King Kong. Yep. And the pterodactyl. Well, the pterodactyl comes with the Kong figure, so there you go. I did pick up both. I didn't pick up the bare bones Kong figure because it's just a gorilla, and I didn't pick up the famous Monsters of Filmland cover variant because it's just a Godzilla, or it's just a Kong in funky colors. If I had that issue of Famous Monsters, I would pick that up just so that I could have the figure with the magazine. But I don't, so whatever. I didn't pick it up. But I did pick up the two versions of Kong with the accessories. So the city one with the biplane and the jungle one with the pteranodon. Did Son of Kong ever get a figure? No, Son of Kong did not get a figure. That would be a nice figure to get, though. It would be cool to get him. Because he isn't just a white Kong. He did use the original frame of Kong. That is the actual original armature of King Kong in there. But they did. Willis O'Brien did sculpt it, and well, actually Marcel Delgado sculpted him slightly differently, so he has a little bit distinct identity from King Kong himself. It would be nice to get that figure, but again, not expecting it. Slice, I love your Monster Serial figure sitting back there on your shelf. Yes! Yeah, in fact, I don't know how long you've been in the stream there, but I did get the Blueberry. So I'll pull him back out here. So he just came out. I've still got one of him at the store, actually. So, but yeah, that's Blueberry is new here for October. So, finally got the complete set after a year of them not having a Blueberry figure. So get that back there. There we go. The Laurentis Kong never got a figure. Yeah, it's always been either 33 Monsterverse or 2005, right? I'm trying to think. Yeah, SH Monster Arts, that's 2005, right? Interesting. I will say this for the De Laurentiis Kong, that the costume does look good. Like, I mean, it's Rick Baker, so it looks good. Just maybe could have been a better movie, I suppose. You guys always see the butt end of my Mickey Mouse mug. There's the front of it. Hooray! Super 76 Kong had a lot of merchandising. You know, maybe somebody can look this up. Maybe I should look this up. I don't know. Was there a 76 Kong figure back in the day? Because, I mean, there was the board game. There was other stuff. There was all sorts of merchandising. So was there ever a 76 Kong figure that came out in, like, 76? Like, by like, Mego or something like that? That would be worth looking up. Which I'm not going to do right now. Ooh, 9:18. Okay. So we've been at this for about 2 hours now, which is pretty darn good. All things considered. I run out of toys though. The creature was the last one that I bought recently. So all that's left is finding the Phantom now. And all right, I also meant to check. Not even a plastic model kit, really? Huh? That's interesting. I don't know who else tunes into this, but last night there was the Godzilla Store live stream. So every month the Godzilla Store does in Japan does a live stream, and it's a lot of fun because the English chat has no idea what's going on, so we just make up our own stories. But you get to see all the new releases and the new, especially the Bandai soft vinyls. But no new Godzilla figures. That's what I collect. So I actually meant to check the Godzilla Store website and see if they have more, like the Godzilla characters they have made available to purchase from North America or not. How about a diorama from the brain that wouldn't die? Yeah. The woman's head in a tray. All you would need is just an extra head, right? I mean, you're almost there with the extra heads that come with the Bride of Frankenstein. Because one of her extra heads is just her wrapped up head with the eyes showing. You're almost there for the brain that wouldn't die. If you could live with not having her mouth, then you could make that into a diorama pretty easy. If I'm remembering the right movie as well. It just occurred to me, like, maybe it's a different movie. King Kong Lives didn't have toys either. Imperial and Mego Core came up on Pinterest from 76. Okay. Reason why we haven't had an Anne accessory is they don't want depicted a woman in peril because they're afraid to be labeled sexist. Maybe. I don't know. I don't feel like Mego would care about that. Or my idea I mentioned earlier about having the the 6-7 inch scale Andero figure, and then the large like 12-inch scale King Kong figure would be a great pair. I don't think Mego, as a deliberately retro company, would really care about that all that much. But who knows? Maybe they just don't do it because either they haven't got the idea, because the idea has just been sitting in my head all this time, and I can't expect them to read my mind, or they just can't be bothered to do the Kong license, because, I mean, well, first of all, Kong licensing is a dog's breakfast. Who do you buy the license from? Or do you just risk, oh no, this is the public domain Kong. Right? This is why the Andero figure only looks vaguely like Fay Ray. Although, I mean, they could just license that from, like, RKO, Turner, or whatever, whoever owns that. Or just wait for 4 years until it's public domain. We need more Andero figures. Yes, we do. Like I said, we need more merchandise of everything from King Kong that is not King Kong. So more of the dinosaurs, more of Andero. I would love to get a figure of Robert Armstrong as my boy there. Yeah, like we need more of anything that is not just the monkey. Because I love the movie, not just the monkey. So, all right, well, I think I'm starting to drop off. And the conversation is a little bit as well, and it is 9:20. So, my time. So, what do you say? Is it time to get a preview of coming attractions? Let's launch into that. So, here is for next month. We kind of bogarted some of the topic here this month, but I mean, it's Halloween, so it's understandable. But next month, I was thinking, why don't we talk Universal Monsters? Right? Have a live stream specifically dedicated to them in all their various forms and so on and so forth. I actually don't have any other announcements here for the end of the live stream. Because I've actually fallen kind of behind in making content. I only have one other video scheduled in November right now, just because various reasons. I do have stuff I'm in the process of making, but I've kind of fallen a little bit behind, taken a bit of a mental and emotional break a little bit from making content. But pulled this together, so at the very least, there will be some videos in November. And specifically, though, for the next live stream, towards the end of next month, the end of November, we're going to be talking Universal Monsters. Hooray! I mean, we always do that anyways. So, we're going to be specifically dedicating ourselves to talking about that. So, that is going to be next month's stream. As I said, I've fallen behind in content for November, just because my energy levels and busyness and just stuff in general has kind of gotten in the way of me being able to come up with content. So just being a little more chill about it, and November will have as many videos as November wants to have. But we'll definitely do a live stream at the end of the month, next month, and talking about Universal Monsters. And then I guess after that will probably be like a Christmas live stream, right? Whichever, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever, holiday season live stream. One more day to Halloween! Yeah. That's Kaiser, I don't know. Do you watch wrestling? Have you seen like Danhausen's I'm Coming Back videos? Because I think they're a reference to that. Universal Monsters, my favorite Universal film is Bride of Frankenstein. Well, save it, Queen! Save it for next month. We'll talk about our favorite Universal Monster movies and all that sort of fun stuff for that. So, I guess that leaves nothing but to thank you very much for coming out here to for the All Hallows Eve All Hallows Eve live stream. And now I just got to put my figures in their appropriate locations. And yeah, thank you very much. And we'll reconvene here next month with all the regulars. And until then, oh wow, Martin, good call. Yes, Hunchback. Oh, you know what? Well, I think I know what video I have to do before the end of the year. It's a Hunchback 100th anniversary video. Why the Hunchback in Notre Dame is so great. So anyways, we've been delaying this. There probably will be another remake of King Kong at some point, unfortunately. But aloha, sayonara, arrivederci, ciao, and good night.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.